Alright, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the 10-hour Road Atlanta race from the WEC series provided by the DES. Saturday morning, 9 o'clock here in Germany, and yeah, welcome to the first stint. Still no spectators. We hope that it changes in a couple of minutes, but we are still 3 minutes out from race start, so it's all good. I hope you all are doing well. I am doing well. I hope the rest in the lobby is doing good also. As you can see, the guys were starting the first and already on their warm-up laps to get a feeling for the track, for the grip, and trying to find their braking points, which is one of the most important factors in this race. So, just a reminder, even though it's called Lobby 2, we have the other lobby also running on Twitch, so if you maybe are missing one of your teammates driving at the moment, it might be possible that you will find him in the other lobby, which will also be streamed on Twitch. The link therefore should be in the description. If not, just log on to Twitch and search for the Digital Endurance series, where the recording stream should also be online right now. The green flag will fall at the same moment, which is in 60 seconds from now on. The lobby should be already set. Jay will just confirm that 60 seconds until the green flag, which is now the moment to start the engines and prepare for race start. Good morning Flipsy, schönen guten Morgen. Cool, dich auch hier im Chat zu sehen. Viel Spaß dir auch jetzt gleich im Rennen. Du fährst ja glaube ich auch selber, wenn ich mich nicht irre, in der Lobby 1. So, let's move through the field. Let's have a look to our cars here in our lobbies. We can later on get a quick look, as we have 2 full hours to get a full picture of what is happening in the lobby. So I would say straighten up, fasten your seatbelts and have a great time. This is the 10-hour Road Atlanta race and we are only seconds away from the green flag, from the race start. So take a deep breath everyone, take a huge sip of coffee and enjoy the race. Have fun guys. So, formation lap is on the way. Charles is leading the field in the hypercar, followed by Fido, Benno Krüger, D-Goats. Johnny is the first GT car, and we go to the front and the green flag is there and the race has started. This is the 10-hour Road Atlanta race. Let's go guys. Turn 1, one of the most difficult corners on track. Everyone's going through just fine. Let's have a look behind to the GT class, where it is a little bit closer than in the hypercar class, where we could have a few fights, but everything seems to work out pretty well. Everyone is behaving quite nicely. It's a 10-hour race. You can't win it at the start. You only can lose it if you do something which might not be as intelligent. And the Porsche is running wide, slight mistake by Joe Cubano, and it will have the consequence that he's now in last place. But at least no penalty from him. He has been off track, but he's lost enough time that the game thought, okay, it's not necessary to give him a penalty, it would even be unfair. So Fido pretty close behind Charles, half a second only. Remember, Charles in the warm-up put on a lap which was almost 1 second faster than anybody else's times. Still, the gap is a little bit small, but already Charles is pulling away. Really quick driver, by the way, DLL Charles, very experienced here in the DES series as well. So you can expect that he will make a good impression, as hopefully the rest of the field does as well. We are here with Fido, who's coming through this very difficult turn 3 with a huge curve in this center apex. Well, generally the first sector, probably the most difficult part on track, as we are now watching Benno Krüger and D-Goats jostling for positions, only half a second apart, both of them, and Johnny also pulling away from the rest of the GT field. Behind him everything is a little bit closer. The most close battle might probably be this one between Zero Kuhaku and Joe Cubano. We're still close together. Joe Cubano might be a little bit mad as he made that small mistake in the first lap, but he will try everything to gain back a few positions, and of course there's more than enough time for that. So Charles in front, doing a great job, all pretty relaxed at the moment. Well, I don't think so, because he's doing he's made a great first racing lap, 107.001. I think the qualifying times were more or less in the 1062 to 3 areas, but without fuel consumption, so the lap times were already supposed to be a little bit quicker, and therefore the times we're seeing right now are really strong. 1076, very good lap as well. Benno Krüger and D-Goats almost doing the same lap times, and we could have an overtaking attempt now by D-Goats, who is now just behind Benno Krüger, half a second, and the gap will come down on the way to the final chicane. At least that's what I'm thinking. Benno Krüger is defending closest the inner line, everything seems to be clear, but the braking point has been missed a little bit by D-Goats, and he has to line up behind Benno Krüger and try for the next attempt. If I am not mistaken, maybe the stewards could confirm it. I think I remember, yes. He has the number plate there, but he made a small modification with the number plates. Maybe the stewards will have a look on it. Morgen Niklas, schön, dass du auch dabei bist und dass du dich um 9 Uhr morgens zu uns gesellt hast zum Start der 10 Stunden von Road Atlanta. Ich hoffe, du hast Spaß. Unsere 3 Teamkollegen fahren alle in der Lobby 1, falls du da auch zugucken möchtest. Aber ich denke, hier wird es auch sehr interessant sein. So, let's have a look behind. Johnny, 2 seconds clear of Ice Tigers, who is now under pressure from Flipsy. Why the hell did I think that he was driving in Lobby 1? I didn't see him in Lobby 2. That's crazy. Alright, Flipsy in the Aston Martin, just behind the wide-body BMW M6. The M6 with a great corner exit. But Flipsy also with a good pace. 117 lap times are really strong around here. I can already spoil you that my lap times will probably not be as great. I hope to change that during the race. 4 hours time driving should be enough training. Nothing happening here at the moment. Meanwhile, Zero Kuhaku still under pressure from Joe Cubano from the Porsche. The McLaren, good car overall in Gran Turismo. Of course, we are driving with custom BOP, and we did allow setup, so the performance of the cars might be a little bit different from what you might expect, but still the McLaren proven car around, I would say at the moment, around every track in Gran Turismo. Generally mid-engined cars have received a great performance boost in the last few months, which is great to see, because it was before very difficult to drive them, at least for most of the drivers. Not only the McLaren, of course, also Ferrari, Lamborghini, Alfa Romeo. Porsche might be one of those exceptions, which is a car which always works. Audi also a good example of a car that was really difficult to drive, and it's great to see that Gran Turismo offered us the opportunity to drive those cars with a little bit easier. and it worked out pretty well. So let's focus back on the race, let's go ahead, and Charles might have done a small mistake because Philo is just behind. No, it's not a mistake. Philo just picked up the pace and set a time of 1:06.872 and almost did it twice. His last 3 laps all below 1:07 lap times, which is quite impressive. So Charles here a little bit under pressure as we expected. It is a very competitive lobby, and D-Goats meanwhile pulling away from Benno Krüger, so that overtake attempt seems to have worked out pretty well. Johnny also pulling away with his Beast Porsche. Also, I think you know the real design, but it fits perfectly with the colors of the DLL. And Ice Tiger still under pressure from Flipsy, who now got a much better exit than before. But this is a track where overtaking is not that easy. You have to line up pretty perfectly to attempt an overtake, and that's maybe not the perfect corner to do so. Now might be the best opportunity ever, and we now get the full picture of this race as we are now getting the first blue flags, and there's the first overlapping attempts by DLL Charles and RA Philo, who has to... yeah, he sent it fully to the inside, but I think it's his teammate, so it's all be fine. Yep, nothing happened, it worked out pretty well. The full picture of his meant, of course, that Flipsy lost a little bit of time behind traffic, but you see how fast this went. It only took them like 6 laps to close to the GT cars, and yeah, the next group of hypercars is also approaching behind now, and that's probably the most yeah, how should we call it? It's not a nice spot on the track to receive blue flags as a hypercar, because it's so difficult to overtake, even though that you are overlapping cars which are like 10 seconds slower, but it's a single racing line track where, especially in the cornery sections like sector 1, it's so difficult to overtake, and it is a lot of patience that you need to have for this track, but therefore we trained a lot, and hope that it works out at the end. So Flipsy losing a little bit of ground to Ice Tigers, and meanwhile, oh, Kuaku with a small mistake in the McLaren out of the last chicane. I don't think that there has been any contact. The car is fine, no damage, he can continue normally, but Joe Cubano finally made that pass, even though it's might be in a different way that he might have wished for. And there's been a lead change. RA Philo has overtaken Charles. Maybe he was stuck a little bit behind traffic, and therefore new race leader RA Philo, who has not set the best lap times before, but that might just be because of traffic. That's what we've been talking about. Traffic will cost you so much time, but as long as everyone has the same deficit, it all should be fine. Now he confirms that it might just be traffic because he's already doing a lap time 1/10 faster than the best lap time overall, and let's see if he can bring it home. It's the 9th lap at the moment, and it is not the best lap time, but still 1:07.073. Not a bad attempt at all. Great lap time, to be honest. And meanwhile, yeah, familiar picture. An Aston Martin just behind the BMW M6, but the M6 seems to have just a little bit of more top speed, more acceleration. It does not seem really easy to overtake that car. And also Ice Tiger's doing really good stint at the moment. Consistent lap times in the 1:18s to 1:17s at the moment. No small mistake by him, just a little wobbly, but he kept the car under control. And this sector is just nearly impossible to overtake. Great exit now by Flipsy, but the gap is not quite there. Ice Tiger's closing the gap Changing the laps one time, that's perfectly fine. You can change the track 2 times. Anything more than that will probably get you a penalty, but that was not the case. And now we come to the really long back straight. But I think Flipsy is a little bit too far behind, and it might seem that an overtake on track might not be happening soon. Late braking attempt. Oh, there's been a slight bit of contact probably. No damage on both cars, I think, at least not on Flipsy's car. No, both cars are perfectly fine. So, all good. So, Kuaku seems to be a little bit, he had dirty tires. Now I think he's back in flow and will try to catch up now to the rear of Joe Cubano as well, but Joe Cubano himself will also try to do the exact same thing to the opposite cars. So Philo pulling away from Charles, but both of them are doing consistent lap times. Also both of them are pretty equal on fuel consumption, tire wear. Charles might be saving a little bit less hybrid energy, which is maybe one of the most important factors during the race. It's a little bit uneven between the 4 hypercars. Of course, in the GTE class that is no factor, as they're all running on 100% combustion engines. And meanwhile, Ice Tigers, now I think this is probably the best opportunity for Flipsy to try and overtake. He sends it fully to the inside, but he did brake a little bit too late and run onto the gravel trap. Kept the car under control, but he lost a little bit more time than he maybe would have wished for, and has to settle in behind Ice Tigers at the moment. He's trying to clean up his tires, as you can see, changing a little bit lanes from left to right. That's perfectly okay, and as long as he's not defending, which is not the case. The gap to Joe Cubano 3.5 seconds. But still, even though that he has dirty tires, he's still catching up with the M6. So Flipsy seems to be quicker at the moment, but it shows you how difficult it is to overtake on this track. Still trying to do the fastest lap in GT class at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. We have to compare it later on with the lap times of Johnny. And now he's really close behind, and this might be the perfect opportunity for an overtake attempt. Now accelerate in 4th gear, 5th gear. The gap is coming down, but it's not coming down fast enough. Now he's closing in, but I think he's still too far away. Now the question is, will he line up behind or will he try to do an overtake? He lines up behind. Oh, another bit of contact, again without damage. But I think he's going a little bit desperate already. I could perfectly understand it, as he's losing so much time behind the M6. But as long as he's in front, he has every right to do the lap times he wants. Let's have a look on fuel and how he's doing. Yeah, Ice Tigers is consuming a little bit more fuel than Flipsy, so even though he's behind, he's managing the fuel pretty good. Porsche also with a good fuel consumption, and Kuaku also doing a great job. Let's have a look on Johnny's car, who's more or less on the same level as DLL Flipsy. So it's all changing. It's everything a little bit uneven, but that makes it interesting for the strategy. And we can talk about that as well, because at the moment not much is happening. Second time that the overlapping is commencing. And this will be interesting because Charles might overlap both cars before the start-finish straight. No, he does not get close enough to the M6, but will try to overtake it now. Yeah, no problem. Great to see also the position lights on the Toyota. Just a reminder for all of you who are new on this channel, it's a multi-class race format. We have the LMH class, which is a class only consisting of the Toyota GR010 hybrid. And in the GT class there is a variation of GTE class from which you can choose from, but we have a custom BOP, so it's not the standard in-game BOP, but the DES has made their own one. It's a little bit slower than the normal race in-game BOP of Gran Turismo, and it also is changes a little bit the characteristics of the car. So one car might be a little bit smoother to drive, one might be a little bit trickier to accelerate off, one might be stronger in the corners than it is with the normal BOP, and it's all mixing up a little bit, but it works out really good. And therefore you do not have that one overpowered car, but several cars. But several cars with different strengths, be it pace-wise, strategic-wise, and yeah, of course the Toyotas, where all cars are exactly equal, where it might also depend on the driver, but one thing that I didn't mention is that tune change or setup change is also allowed, so you're not allowed to put in any performance boosting things in your car except a race gear box, but for example turbochargers are one of those things that are of course forbidden, but everything else is allowed to change. Great to see multi-class action here. Both cars overtaking. This might be the perfect opportunity for Flipsy to overtake Ice Tigers. He went past him, but now we have the long straight, but Ice Tigers has run wide, and I don't think that he is close enough to do another overtake attempt, and he also has gotten himself a half a second penalty, so this is a change for P2 in the GTE class at the moment. So let's see if Flipsy can pull away. He will certainly in the next lap when Ice Tigers has to serve his penalty, but he's also clearing him in this final sector. Well, to be honest, not really. Ice Tigers is keeping up with him, doing a great job for the GTP team. Yeah, let's talk about strategy. I would say most people will opt for two-stop strategy, so after more or less 30 laps, I would say most people will do their pit stop and then do another 30 to 32 lap stints thereafter and fill up the car with the fuel they need. And in the hypercar class it will be more or less the same, with the difference that they might be doing 1 or 2 laps per stint more, as they are a little bit more efficient on fuel, and yeah, it should work out pretty well. Yeah, tire wear might be a factor, as the hypercar class are 4-wheel driven cars, so the tire wear will be a factor, but it looks at the moment really good compared to the GT cars. Well, it depends on the car. As we see now, Joe Cubano doing a great tire management, Kuaku as well. The tires of Johnny look a little bit more used compared to that, and Ice Tigers also with pretty high tire wear at the moment. And yeah, therefore if you did calculate right, you might have realized that the GTE class will do about 93 laps in each 2-hour stint, and the hypercars are scheduled to do approximately 102 laps or something like this, maybe a little bit more. Depends a little bit on the pace of course, but just imagine if you're only 1 second quicker, you might be able to do 1 or 1.5 laps more in each stint, which is just crazy. But of course the track is really small, so it makes sense. And Ice Tigers has to have a look behind already, because Joe Cubano is closing in. He already served his penalty, and therefore Flipsy is already 4 seconds clear and set a time now that he's in clean air of 1:17.103. Really strong lap time, which is more or less around the normal qualifying times that we've seen in GT cars. Well, okay, normal times means that most of the people were 1 second slower than the pole setters, who are just crazy pace-wise. And I think his car was one of those, if I'm not mistaken. But nevertheless, oh, he's running really wide here. Nothing happened. But of course, you need to abuse those track limits as much as you can without getting a penalty to get the best possible lap time. And yeah, so let's have a look. 21 minutes have passed. We have still 1 hour and 38 minutes to go until the first checkered flag. Meanwhile, Fido trying to go for the fastest lap. Here's traffic ahead, but it's only the McLaren of Zero Kuako, which should more or less even help him, as he's getting a little bit of slipstream, but yeah, maybe not as much as he might have wanted. But still, he's clear of traffic, so let's keep a look if he can improve. He's now only 4 hundredths up on his best attempt. Final corner, traffic ahead, but a little bit too far ahead, so it should all be fine. And it did not work out at the end, unfortunately. But still, 106.680 by Charles. No, that's the time has been set by Charles, okay. So Charles showing that he is still there, that he's still behind, and that if the opportunity is there, he will go for the gap just ahead. Now, of course, he has to deal with GTE traffic, as did Philo the lap before. Yeah, perfect example of how you should manage traffic if there is no possibility to pass him. Just close him behind, and you see how much time Philo lost behind those two cars as Charles is now going for P1. The overtake has been completed, and we have a change for the race lead once again, and 2 seconds, as I might have called it, just gone within 2 corners. That's Road Atlanta for you guys. And still, Pete, of course, might be a little bit mad, as at least he's not losing time behind Charles. He is staying within range. Oh, and Charles goes full send on his teammate in the GT class. Fiedel uses this gap and follows him just behind. That was a little bit optimistic, but I think both of them might be communicating at the moment, and therefore I would say that Flipsy knew what was coming at that moment. Now only 1 car ahead, which is the Porsche of Johnny, also driving for DLL. And Fido, I think, ran a little bit wide. He lost a little bit too much time, so we won't see an overtake on this lap. It all seems pretty well for Charles at the moment, who is now clear of Fido. Yeah, both of them pretty equal fuel-wise. The tire wear is a little bit more equal, I would say, on Fido's car. The right-hand side at least looks way better. Dego's also keeping up. Benno Krüger might have done a small mistake, as there was a lap where he lost a huge amount of time, and it was the last lap, if I'm not mistaken. So, next car in line, DLL Johnny to overtake, and you see how difficult it is, and this is not Johnny's fault. Just to confirm, the GT cars have strict orders to keep their racing line if there's faster traffic coming from behind. This is just due to the fact that faster cars need to expect or need to have a feeling of where the GTE cars will drive, and of course if they know that they are keeping their racing line, they can perfectly circumdrive them. But if they try to make space, it might even just result because of that in an accident. So therefore, no fault on Johnny. He just stayed on his racing line, which he is supposed to do. And this just means for the faster traffic that in situations like this, You just have to line up behind and wait, even if it costs you like 2 seconds. We've seen it with Fido before, and we've seen it now with Charles. And of course the result of that is that the gap has come down again to half a second. Fido doing a great job keeping behind, which is not easy in this first sector due to dirty air, which those cars produced, which must be a huge amount compared to the GT cars. Charles getting a better exit on this southern corner. I have to count what corner is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, turn 10 it is, if I'm not mistaken. I do not have the corner names in my mind at the moment. One of my teammates might have them as my team is yeah, quite enthusiastic about American racetracks, and therefore of course we are really happy to race here. Settling our cars of our team on this track. They are all driving in lobby 1, which I think is a premiere for us. 3 cars of us in one lobby. On the other hand, DLL has the exact same benefit as Charles, Johnny and Flipsy are all driving together in this lobby as well. So let's have a look behind, as the battle seems to be continuing between Charles and Fido, but we also have the GT cars. Johnny still in the lead with like yeah, 9.8 seconds, but with a huge fuel consumption. Flipsy doing a slightly better job on managing his fuel. Joe Cubano in 8th place, also doing a great job on saving fuel, and Kuhaku as well, so therefore I would say that Ice Tigers will be the first one to pit. Yep, it seems that way. But we could also have a change of lead, as Flipsy is doing a better job on saving fuel at the moment than Johnny is. But I would say it should be enough fuel for 4 or 5 more laps, if I'm not mistaken. The fuel consumption is ×1, so even though that there are like how much is this on the GT cars? Here on Kuhaku's car it is like I would say 11% more or less. He should be having a fuel consumption of approximately a maximum of like 2 liters per lap, so therefore 5 more laps should not be a problem for him. The same thing goes for Joe Cubano as well, as the warning light should go on right now, which it does. And Ice Tigers will, yeah, I think just fuel wise he will be the first one to pit. Everyone now on reserve fuel, but of course they will drown every little bit of fuel that they can to make the car as light as possible for the next stint. The hypercars are all still doing great on fuel. Of course, they are a little bit more efficient, but and remember they made 2 to 3 more laps as the GTE cars, so this is on this track like 12 kilometers more distance, and even though they have still a higher amount of fuel. So, Fido going for fastest lap as well, 1/10, 100th and 1000th faster than the fastest lap, which has been set by D-Ghost, by the way, who's now also closing the gap to the guys ahead. That was something that I did not expect, but it's great to see that we might have a third car in the mix for the lead battle. So, those things keep this race interesting. Fido does not want to be held up behind the car ahead and goes for, yeah, on the start finish straight, but not setting the fastest lap. Oh, and we might have a disconnect by Benno Krüger, who has left the room. It was the 4th hypercar in class. Disconnect after 31 minutes. I just write it down for the moment in case the stewards want to know, or the race order, so that they just know when it happened. Alright, really unfortunate, but there is a procedure as we have to enter the gaps. He will now confirm when he had his disconnect. I think he had like a 45-second gap to the guys ahead, and will now have to enter the gap. And I think for the rest of the stint we will calculate with a 105% time of his qualifying lap. Of course, pit stops will be excluded. Really unfortunate for him, that was pretty undeserved, but the race is still not over for him, as there are 4 more stints, and of course he will be allowed to drive them as well, and the same thing naturally goes for his teammates as well. So, the first pit stop of the race for the GTP car of Ice Tigers, number 77, already refueling. Refueling takes a huge amount of time, as the refueling time is 2 liters per second. And that means, of course, that he will now be the last car on the grid at the moment, but of course the rest of the grid still has to do their pit stop as well. So it might even be a benefit at the moment. He's still refueling. I would say that he will take around 60%, something like this. Also great to see that Gran Turismo now shows us how much you are refueling at the moment. Now he's taking even a little bit more fuel, 72% of fuel, which is a huge amount. But maybe he will do a little bit longer stint so that he can do a shorter stint at the end on fresher tires. So let's see how it works out. Johnny also doing his pit stop, which means that Flipsy now has taken the race lead. He is now being followed by D-Goats, the Canadian driver, in 3rd place overall and in the hypercar class. And you see how impossible it is to overtake in this first sector. We've seen it before between the DLL cars. It is possible if you are, for example, in a PlayStation Network party and you can talk to one another and say, yeah, I keep the right side, you pass me on the left. It works out, but if you're not communicating with one another, it is almost impossible, and therefore D-Goats did everything that he was supposed to do, waited behind. It saved him a bit of fuel, and of course it might have saved him the race as well. Joe Cubano also going for his pit stop. Johnny exiting the pits with, I think it was 67% fuel. Joe Cubano still refueling, filling the car up to more or less the same amount as Ice Tigers, even a little bit more. Yeah, he's filling up a little bit more. Ice Tigers now on the start-finish straight. There might have been a mistake because he has lost much more time than the rest of the field, and Joe Cubano filled the car up. Ah no, Joe Cubano has now to do his pit exit, which will also take a lot of time here in Road Atlanta. But he's now very good on fuel. He will do a really long stint, and he went for the medium tires, which is really interesting. It's the medium tires, just for explanation, are of course logically a harder racing compound than the racing soft with which most of the guys in this lobby are driving. The tire of course has a longer life duration and will wear out way slower than the soft tire, but of course the lap times will not be as great. So my thinking is that he either will try to go for the end of the race, which I think is really difficult and not quite possible due to his fuel consumption, as he did consume a little bit more fuel than he should have for that. Or he will do a really long stint now on mediums to later do a really quick stint and short stint on soft tires again. And I think the latter one might be the most logical option. So let's see how it works out. The race leader is coming now into the pits, Zero Kuhaku as well. And therefore we have the last car of the GTEs in the pit lane. And it is also not too far away for the hypercars to pit as well. So Flipsy filling up his Aston Martin, Kuhaku doing the same in his McLaren. So Johnny now on the start finish straight. Flipsy just exiting the pits. And I think he will remain in P2. Yes, Johnny passed him pretty easily, but the gap has become way smaller than it was before. Both of them with almost the same amount of fuel. Flipsy having a little bit more fuel on board at the moment. So the Aston Martin seems to be a quite efficient car in this race. And yeah, something must have happened with Heist Tigers, as he has even fallen behind Zero Kuhaku. Joe Cubano, we should not forget that he refueled his car, which took a huge amount of time, and therefore you can count for every 2 liters 1 second. So with the 13 seconds that he has lost, it means that he might have refueled around 26% more than the rest, and if we compare it with the other drivers, that is more or less the exact difference of fuel compared to the other cars. So that's the reason why he lost a little bit more time. But therefore he will spend less time in the next pit stop and is driving now in clean air. The interesting thing will be the medium tires, and he is losing time to the car ahead. So I don't know if this is the correct strategy. We will see if it works out later on. There we see Charles passing Joe Cubano, of course, as before, not for position. And Ice Tigers will have to close the gap to Kuhaku as fast as he can. But Flipsy now has a huge gap in front, so something must have happened there with Ice Tigers, I think. This cannot only have been his pit stop, because he lost way more time than that. And look at that, that's what we want to see. All 3 hypercars within 10 seconds, only 7.5 seconds between all 3 cars. You love to see it, don't you? So, Charles is really short on fuel, so he might come into the pits at the end of this lap. Yeah, he's doing so. The pit lane entry, as you see, a little bit difficult. You have to practice it if you compare it to other tracks on Gran Turismo. But that was like a perfect example on how to enter the pit lane without losing time, and of course without getting a penalty. So 40 minutes now have more or less passed, so it is maybe 1 lap too early, but he can refuel a little bit more. Normally if you go for a 2-stop strategy, of course you normally calculate to do a pit stop every 40 minutes, because 40 minutes times 3, so 3 cents, make 120 minutes, which are logically the 2 hours that is the exact duration of the stint. So Philo now in P1 again, but he will also do his pit stop in a couple of moments. The interesting thing will be D-Goals, because I'm not sure if he might even try to go for 1 more lap. If I were him, I would just do something different than the other car. He stays out for 1 more lap, but I think Philo does the exact same thing. Yes, Philo also stayed out for 1 more lap, but he has less fuel. The interesting thing is that D-Goats normally should not know this. So it is still possible that both of them come in for the pit stop on different laps. Oh, almost lost the car there, Fido. So, Charles has come out with 50% fuel, which is more or less the exact amount with which he started on. Of course, the starting fuel in Gran Turismo can not be changed by the drivers. It is pre-selected via the lobby settings, and therefore as a driver you do not have any influence on your choice of how much fuel you take for the race start. Everyone starts on the exact same amount with it, which is 50% fuel. And yeah, now Fido coming in for his pit stop, of course, new tires and fresh fuel for his car. And D-Goats, in my opinion, doing the right thing by staying out for another lap, so that he has, of course, the risk that he will fall below an undercut, but he has been set in second position already, so it might not have a huge difference on his race position later on. But he will have fresher tires during the next stint, fresher tires than everyone else, and this might be an interesting factor. Fido exiting the pits now, and Charles coming up in first place, and Fido has picked up a 3-second penalty, which must have been because of crossing the yellow line on pit entry or pit exit. Pit entry might be more yeah, it might just be the pit entry because it's so easy to get the lane. And D-Goat staying out for another lap, of course. We named it before. Drain as much fuel as you can to have the lightest car possible later on. Yeah, he's losing time now, but this 1 second might just be because of traffic. Everyone else might fall for the same thing as well, so they're still good. Last lap time of Charles was a little bit faster. So Fido coming now in the back straight, and I think this might be the lap where will he come into the pits. If not, he will maybe just be able to do one more lap, but that will be it. And I think he is staying out for one more lap. Yes, he is. The gap is coming down a little bit. Charles is catching up, but not by that huge amount of time that it will hurt the race position of D-Goats. And Fido also lost much time, 11 seconds. That's crazy. He lost like 5 seconds or so. Was it due to traffic? Ah no, I remember it was the 3-second penalty. Yeah, and that shows you that you normally lose not just the 3 seconds that are shown up, because for those 3 seconds that are shown up, your car will be idled and will be forced to break down to 80 kph, and of course you have to accelerate again. It costs you fuel, but more crucially it costs you so much time that if possible you try to avoid something like this. So D-Goat's now coming into the pits, and I think he just avoided of touching the yellow line. You see how difficult it is. It's really, really difficult. So the final guy to enter the pit lanes, tire change and refueling. So let's have a look on the rest of the field. Let's have a look on the GT cars, because we did not do so for the last 10 laps, more or less. Joe Cubano still in last place. Ice Tigers in 7th, and you see Joe Cubano is losing a huge amount of time, so I don't think that it was the correct strategic choice. But of course you never know unless you try. Zero Kuaku in P6. Doing a great job at the moment. He lost a little bit of time during the start, but the strategy, fuel management worked out pretty well. And there was a really good example by Charles of overlapping a car in Sector 1. It was perfectly managed, perfectly executed. As we told before, really difficult to do so. Yeah, Johnny in second place at the moment and in front of him his teammate, so yeah, great news at the moment for DLL, as the car leading the hypercar class is also a green car, which also belongs to DLL. So let's move there. Fido 3/10 behind D-Goats. So D-Goats, yeah, his strategy has worked out pretty well. He stayed out longer than everyone else. And he has also most hybrid energy left at the moment. Fido must be furious at the moment, so he will definitely try to gain back his second, maybe even his first position. But of course, it is step by step, one after another. Oh, GT3 traffic coming there in the way. It is Zero Kuhaku. No chance for him to avoid that. But this also means that now the gap has come down a little bit again. Fido is now only 3/10 behind D-Goats. And now both of them are coming onto the back straight, and this is the perfect opportunity for Fido to try to overtake it. And he had a slight oversteer moment there, turbo oversteer exiting this first corner, but this might have even helped him, but no, I don't think so. He's a little bit too far away, and that cost him a little bit too much time, therefore no chance for him for an overtaking attempt on D-Goats. Also D-Goats now proving how important hybrid energy is. He's now just flying away, and the race pace on Fido is now starting to disappear, and he can almost do nothing about it. If the hybrid energy is gone once, it will almost never come back. And Charles, even though that he has the same problem, is going for fastest lap again, but he has now his teammate in front of him, which will slow him down a bit, but it will not cost him too much time. He's still 11.4 seconds clear, so he's perfectly fine at the moment. Let's have a look on the two cars behind. Fido much closer now, but you can already see how the Canadian driver is still pulling away. That hybrid energy just making this small amount of difference, so that Fido has not even the slightest possibility to catch up to the car in front of him. Oh, there happened something. Zero Kuhaku lost a huge amount of time, and there might have been a crash for him, as he has a front bumper and left and right front tire damage. 18 seconds lost on this lap, so there might have been an incident. Oh, just keep it on the black stuff, mate. Don't enter the grass, please. Don't get another spin. And I think he will enter the pit lane for repairs, yes. He's going for the safe route, and that means that Joe Cubano will pass the red lantern to Zero Kuhaku for the time being. Very unfortunate, as he was doing a great job, one of his best stints that I've witnessed in the last races. Great effort for him. I hope that he will keep up with it for the remaining 70 minutes of the stint, and of course of the rest of the racing time. Don't forget that we still have 9 hours of race time in front of us. And Ice Tigers is still losing time to the cars ahead. So everything seems to have settled down a little bit at the moment. Kuako exited the pit lane, fresh soft tires. I don't think that he did refuel his car though. No, he did not. So if you have any questions considering the Digital Endurance Series, the WEC Racing Series we have here, the GT Racing Series, don't be shy, feel free to ask any questions, of course. We have more than enough time to, I think, answer everything of it, and of course in the meantime we will focus on the race as well. But now that the gaps have been more or less settled, the probability that something will happen now has gone a little bit low. Dego's also pulling away now from RA Fidel. 5 seconds clear now at the moment, but we've seen before how fast this can change. So 54 minutes have passed now. So let's see where the closest gap at the moment is, and it is, for a fact, at the moment the gap between Degauts and RA Fido. And yeah, that means that we do not have a real competition at the moment. But let's not forget we have another pit stop window coming up in, I would say, around 20 to 25 minutes, something like this. Let it maybe be 30 minutes. So the race is still not over yet. I think we'll get a little bit of action back later on. For now, if it's okay, we'll take a 10-minute break and yeah, go for another cup of coffee, and yeah, as it is still in the morning, I hope that's okay for you. I would say that we will... let's keep it up. There's a little bit of overlapping traffic as well, but the gap has increased instead of come down. I would say that we yeah, stay with the GTE leader for the moment, as he has not had as much screen time. Of course, now at the moment, I'm seeing it right now, Johnny has yeah, he has lost a huge amount of time, and I think that the reason for that might be the McLaren behind, as he must have been passed now for blue flags, and maybe therefore Flipsy lost a little bit of time there, because his last lap time was a 1:23, which was not a great lap of any means. It's almost a GT4 lap, so it must definitely have been due to traffic. Half a second penalty, but pace seems still being normal. No, he's got damage, I'm realizing it now, he's got damage on his car. Has Kuako also got damage? No, he has not, so it might have just been a normal incident and it was not Kuako's fault by any means, we don't know. That's for the stewards to decide, but of course it means that Johnny will definitely close the gap and pass him, because I think that Flipsy is coming to the pits at the end of this lap to repair his damage, as did Kuako before. It just shows you how difficult this track really is. So what is Flipsy doing? Oh, I think he crossed the yellow line as well, and it will cost him even more time. Ah, that's really annoying. The most positive thing out of this, that we still have a DLL car leading the GTE class. But that's of course really unfortunate. Yeah, he did change tires, repair his damage, and I think he put a little bit of extra fuel in his car just to make up for the time that he already lost. So it will be a stint for around 20 to 25 minutes, laps, something like this. Of course the 3-second penalty, yeah, we saw that coming because of his accident before. And now Ice Tigers is also really close behind Flipsy, but of course on much worse tires than Flipsy is. And now we can witness... Oh, almost lost the car there. Now we can witness how costly such a 3-second penalty really is. Just focus on the gap between Flipsy and Ice Tigers. It is now, let's say around 9.9 seconds. He is now serving his penalty, as you can see. The car breaks down to around 80 kph. Now he's starting to accelerate. And now watch the gap, how it comes down. 9.8, 9.0, 8, 7.4, 7, 6 seconds. 5.7 seconds is the gap now at the moment. So he lost like around 4.5 seconds for a 3-second penalty. And therefore you see how important it is to avoid those penalties. Maybe it costs you a little bit more time entering the pit lane if you drive a little bit slower, but therefore you don't get to save such a penalty. But of course it's almost easier said than done. Oh, close call as well, as Joe Cubano entered the grass there, making a little bit more space than he might have wished for. So, 1 hour has passed. I would say that I'm doing just a quick little break. I will be back in quickest time possible. Just getting another cup of coffee, as it's still early in the morning. We stay with the GT race leader so that we might see just everything around him. So, back in a minute. Alright guys, I'm back. Sorry for the small break, but life without coffee is no fun. So, the gap has come down a little bit between D-Goats and Philo. Flipsy still in second place after his damaging pit stop, still staying clear of Ice Tigers, even pulled away a bit. And Joe Cubano lost a little bit. Yeah, no, Sirukuaku fell behind before, but he's already catching up, which, yeah, definitely proves that his strategic choice might not have been the best one. But of course, you're always smarter afterwards. But normally, of course, you try something like this during training. Maybe he just realized, okay, my tire wear is just a little bit too high, so I play it safe and go with a compound that will last for 30 or 40 laps. So of course, maybe it still works out later on. Let's not forget that he will lose way less time in the pits later on compared to the rest of the GTE field. But in the front everything seems to be okay. Just a quick update maybe on the first lobby. I think it is a 1-2 at the moment by WSR teams 1 and 3, so both hypercar teams. And the GTE class at the moment also, yeah, being led by the WSR team number 2, which is the main GTE team. So yeah, great news at the moment, to be honest, but it's still a long race to go, and therefore we still have to wait. And let's not forget that both lobbies are running at the same time, and yeah, everyone who started on an even position is starting in this lobby, and everyone who started with an uneven starting position starts in lobby 1. So we have the pole setter in lobby 1, P2 here in this lobby, which I think it is the car we are seeing right now. Of course P2 in qualifying, and the third place car is again in lobby 1, and so on. So it means both lobbies are equally strong, and the grid will always change according to the overall timetable, which will change after every 2 hours when the current gap between all cars will be posted on Discord. So therefore, even though that we see Charles now in first place trying to overtake now the GTE BMW, which worked out pretty well, it must not precisely mean that he is in first place overall at the moment. He can also be in P2 or P3, depending on how the pace of the other cars and other lobbies is at the moment. And that's one of the most interesting things here. And of course, normally we would prefer to see all cars in one lobby, but because we have, I think, 19 drivers at the moment overall, it is unfortunately impossible to have more than 14 drivers in one lobby, because we only have space for 16 plus the streamer, which at the moment is myself, and one neutral person as well who is there to host the lobby. Normally it also is possible that one of the drivers hosts the lobby. At the moment I can confirm for you that the lobby host is a neutral spectator, and yeah, therefore we have always someone who can still keep an eye on track in case that the lobby crashes, which we all hope that it does not happen. He still is able to do screenshots and save the gaps between the cars so that we can resettle the grid. But this is of course an absolute worst case scenario. Ooh, both GTP cars getting a little bit naughty with one another, and I think Vito gifted Ice Tigers just a small little penalty, if I'm not mistaken. No, just due to the contact, no penalty was issued here. So, Kuaku passed Joe Cubano, or did he make a mistake? No, he passed him, I think. Even though that there was a 3 seconds lost on lap 52. So we are past the half mark of the race, as expected, so we are just within the scheduled lap times. And yeah, just a quick information, if you are also interested in participating in the WE series or in the GT3 series, just a short explanation of the difference between both racing series. The GT or Group 3 series consists of Group 3 cars only, and it is a race where tuning is not allowed, and we run with a standard BOP. And one additional rule is that every car... Oh, almost Joe Cubano loses the car there. Just kept it out of the grass. Oh, very, very close call. Yeah, it's difficult, and after 1.5 hours, something like this, the concentration also starts to show, or even better said, starts to disappear. And this is what really shows. Which will be perfectly normal, and I think it will not be the last mistake in this lobby by any driver. That's just normal, and after 10 hours it will be even worse, I think, for me personally as well. But I still can't wait to drive. I think, yeah, my turn is in about 1 hour or so, where I can start to drive as well, 2 hours, and yeah, I hope it will be fun. I hope I stay as clear of traffic as I can. I will do my absolute best to do so. So, back to the Group 3 series. So every car is only allowed 2 times maximum overall. Refueling time is ×4, tire wear and fuel consumption ×2, and you start with a full tank of fuel, which means 100%. And the next race will be taking part on the 24 hours layout of the Nürburgring, and it will also be a 24-hour race. It will be held in September. So if you're interested, after the end of this race weekend, I think the registration for this precise race should start. So just enter the Discord server of the WE, of the Digital Endurance Series, and yeah, register as soon as possible, and you might get a shot. And of course, on the other hand, we still have the WEC series, which you are seeing at the moment, and as I explained before, multi-class hypercars with tuning allowed, and Group 3 cars with custom BOP and also with tuning allowed. And yeah, fuel consumption and tire wear is ×1, refueling time 2 liters per second, and every stint starts with an amount of 50% in each fuel tank. And the next race will be held in October, and it is a 6-hour race at the Circuit de Interlagos in Brazil. And it is for both racing series the 5th round, so this is the 4th race of the BC series that we are seeing right now. The races before have been a 6-hour race at Monza, an 8-hour race at Nürburgring GP, and the last race was the 24-hour race at Le Mans. And for the Group 3 series, the first race has been a 12-hour race at Mount Panorama, also known as Bathurst. The second race was a 24-hour race at Spa-Francorchamps. And the last race that we had... No, the last 2 races we had were the 6-hour race of Brands Hatch, and the race before was a 6-hour race at Watkins Glen. So, let's focus back on the race. The gaps are still a bit too far apart. D-Goats, meanwhile, is closing in a little bit on Charles. And he has way better fuel consumption, which could pay dividends after the next round of pit stops, because I am pretty sure that D-Goats might be able to get the race lead if he spends less time in the pits, which at the moment seems to be that way. So Flipsy has gotten back his race lead because Johnny entered the pit lane. Ice Tigers might be the next one to do his pit stop. Johnny's still refueling, and I think he's now done with 71. Oh no, that's not possible. Disconnect by D-Goats. He was doing so great in this stint. Disconnect by our Canadian fellow driver in the hypercar class. So we only have 2 hypercars left. Oh my goodness me, that's just unlucky. Really good pace that he showed here. Luckily for him, if I might say so, it was just before the next round of pit stops. So therefore he will not lose time for that. And yeah, what time did we have? We had 1 minute and 18. No, 1 hour and 18 minutes. And he completed, like, if Charles is driving now, I think the disconnect must have happened on lap 68 to 69. 69. Alright, just in case that the stewards will have a look into that. Really unlucky, really undeserving. It was a great performance. We did not see that coming, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more of them later on. The race is still not over. We have a long way still to go, and yeah, therefore fingers crossed that we'll get a little bit of more racing action later on. So 40 minutes left, and nevertheless Charles will probably be the first hypercar to enter the pit lane. Gap 16 seconds between him and Philo. Flipsy is still good on fuel. Johnny made his pit stop already. Kuhaku 22 seconds behind. Will still have to do his pit stop. Ice Tigers coming in now. Refueling is completed, 68% of fuel. And Joe Cubano is staying out. No, he already made his pit stop. He changed to the soft tires. But I'm not sure if he has enough fuel to go to the end. It will be difficult. Not impossible, but let's say it will remain interesting. So let's see what's happened. Yeah, just for confirmation, the drivers who got a disconnect was well, the drivers Benno Krüger was driving for JWB1, and yeah, D-Goats was driving for VM2. Just for confirmation, so that you know what happened there. So I think the most interesting battle, which will maybe coming up in a few moments, will be the one between Flipsy and Johnny, but I'm sure that Flipsy will be settling for position between Johnny and Kuhaku, or better said between Johnny and Ice Tigers, after entering or after completing his final pit stop, which should be happening in the next 3 to 4 laps. Philo still staying out for another lap. but Charles did make his pit stop as expected. So at the moment the competition seems to be done, but of course, you know the rules, it's never over until it's over. And Fido's still staying out, so no pit stop for him at the moment. So fuel warning light on for Zero Kuhaku, and it is yeah, definitely now time for his final pit stop, and I think he will do so as well. Joe Cubano and Ice Tigers already did make their pit stop, so it also will be interesting where Kuhaku comes out. He takes his time entering the pit lane. Just avoided the white line, remember, where there are gaps in the line, it is okay to cross it, because unless you don't do so, you are completely unable to enter the pit lane. Flipsy remains on track, meanwhile Fido comes in for his final pit stop. It will be a full service, I think, yeah. Change of tires first and thereafter refuel. Standard procedure. Nothing special. And I just realized that I might have made a small mistake. I thought that it was a GTP car, but the car belongs to the Real Racing Club, if I am not mistaken. I'll just confirm it for you. Yes, it was for the Real Racing Club, so sorry for that. I did not realize it. But the liveries seemed so equal between both cars that I was so sure that I didn't even question which car the one of RA Filo belonged to. But now we are clear, so now we have the confirmation for that. I can already confirm for you that I'm just comparing the lap times of the hypercars and the GTEs to the lap times of the first lobby, which is currently being streamed on Twitch, that the lap times are really close together. So at the moment for me it is almost impossible to confirm where everyone is positioned according to the overall results. And Fido has come back behind as expected. And Flipsy stays out for another lap, I think, maybe for even 2 more laps. So also for your information, after the race ends, which will be now in 32 32 minutes and 33 minutes and 20 seconds time from now on, more or less. This will be the time when we will see the jacket flag. We will have a break of 30 minutes. The gaps will be calculated on Discord, and at 12 o'clock. Oh, we have a yellow flag. Who is the guy spinning ahead? It is R.A. Fido, and here's engine damage by the second place car of the hypercar class in Lobby 2. And I am not sure if there has been contact. There was traffic. Let's confirm if anyone else has damage. No, everyone else seems to be fine. The damage might suggest that he had an impact exiting the first corner, but the most unlucky thing definitely is the engine damage. So I would say that Charles at the moment is definitely clear and might even be able to make up, to overlap Philo later on. So the gap will be a little bit larger than Philo might wish for. That's just unlucky, but he will carry it back to the pits, let it repair, and then go flat out for the final 32 minutes. Just unlucky. But that's Road Atlanta for you, as we mentioned before. It is so easy to do a mistake here. So Philo has reached the pit. Of course he will not change tires. I think he will only repair his damage, which costs him... engine damage normally takes around 6 seconds. Flipsy meanwhile is now coming in for his final pit stop. And he made up a little bit of time compared to Johnny, even though that his tires are much more worn out. So let's see where he will rejoin the track. If I'm not mistaken, I would say that he will come out just behind Johnny. Maybe he will have like a 5 to 6 second gap behind him. He will need around 50% of fuel, so the stop will take a little bit more time, and of course exiting the pit lane will also not be a quick thing done. So Johnny's now on the start-finish straight. He will retake the lead, that is clear, that is something that we did expect. Flipsy now approaching the pit exit. Johnny now passing turn 1. And Flipsy now exiting the pit, and he lost a little bit more time than what I have been expecting. I would say he lost around 8 seconds, so 2 to 3 difference. So that's, it was a good suggestion by me, but it was a little bit more time. Still 30 minutes to go. He has fresher tires, he has even less fuel, but we did expect that in some kind of way, because the Aston Martin seems to be the most efficient GTE car on track at the moment. And also one of the most important things is that he has a huge amount of distance compared to the BMW of Ice Tigers. Remember, they were just close together at the start of the stint. Just ignore the 1 minute and 47, it will come down now, because Flipsy made his pit stop. Still the gap should be around 50 seconds or something like this. It's coming down still a little bit more, but it's now settling to 55 seconds. Joe Cubano 8 seconds behind, and Zero Kuhaku in last place, but still only 10 seconds behind Joe Cubano. The only thing that I can confirm for you is that the first place car in lobby 1 and the second place and the first place car here in lobby 2 are about, I would say, like 10 seconds apart, maybe 15. But I will not tell you which driver of both of them is in first place overall at the moment. That is something that you have to find out for yourself. But I can just confirm that it really is this close at the moment. Of course, we are only in the first 90 minutes at the moment of a total time of 600 minutes which we are driving. If I'm not mistaken, an hour is 60 minutes, we are doing 10 hours, so 600 minutes. Yeah, it's working out pretty well. Joe Cubano is also closing the gap to the BMW in front. The Porsche, strong car overall as well. We didn't even talk about that car. The only thing that I still think is a little bit unfortunate is that the Porsche that we are seeing right now, for this racing series it is perfect, because in real life it is a GTE car and not a GT3. GTE, the E stands for Endurance, which is the normal class. That has been created by the WEC. The cars are normally a little bit faster, a little bit lighter, even though that they have lost way more performance that they might have wished for compared to what they started out. But if it wouldn't have happened, the cars might have just gotten too fast. And yeah, it's pretty unfortunate that the GTE program in real life is now on the final stages of existence, as in real life now the GTE Pro class is not even in existence anymore, only the amateur class, and we're also in the final year of the GTE class, because next year the GTE class will be replaced by the standard GT3 class, which I think is a great idea. It's a little bit cheaper compared to the GTE class if you if something can be defined as cheap in race sports in the first place. Oh, slight mistake by Joe Copano. This will definitely get him a half a second penalty, maybe even 1 second. Let's have a look. No penalty issued here, so lucky for him. And the gap between Flipsy and Johnny is coming down. It was at around 9.5 seconds, now only 8.2 seconds between both cars. Remember, they are both teammates, so I don't think that they will fight one another. And yes, we expected Charles overlapped Fido, because the gap now is 1 minute and 14 seconds. If you now remember that the lap times are at around 107, 108 at the moment, now that the hybrid energy has gone, it is clear that they cannot both be in the same lap. Now that both cars are next to another, the RRC car, oh, small mistake by Fido, as he tried to pass the BMW 4 position, and now he has to settle behind, and he even has gotten himself a track penalty. A half a second penalty for track limits. That's just a little bit unlucky, but half a second is not that much of an issue. It will not cost you as much time as the pit lane crossing penalty. 25 minutes left on the clock. Johnny's still in P1, but he's losing more and more time. Or let's tell it differently, Flipsy is closing in more and more. The Aston Martin now on the final stages. Very good performance by him. He just passed Kuaku again. It was not for position, it was again an overlapping effort. And the gap still keeps coming down. The Aston Martin seems also to have pretty good straight line speed. If you keep an eye on the delta, the gap is coming down now that they're both accelerating. Now in the higher speeds, the Porsche of Johnny seems to have a little bit more performance, but in the slower speeds, the acceleration wise, the Aston Martin seems to be pretty strong. The gap still remains at 7.5 seconds, so we'll monitor that because it is by far the closest battle we have at the moment. Meanwhile, in the rest of the GT class, the gap is a little too high. As Ice Tiger sits already 1 minute behind Flipsy, and it might even be possible that he will receive blue flags at the end of this race for Flipsy, which is crazy because both of them fought in the starting stages of the race. But that's just one of those examples that it is perfectly normal, because the lap times are really strong that Ice Tigers is doing at the moment. 119s, 118s. But even this 1 second that he's slower is already enough, and that shows how fast the rest of the grid at the moment really is. 7 seconds, 9.5, but this might have also been due to blue flags on track between Johnny and Flipsy. Charles, meanwhile, is all clear. He just is now carrying his car home. Just doing what he can do best, drive his car without any mistakes until the end of his stint and then pass it on to his teammate. Which at the moment, to be honest, I don't know who is driving next. But you will receive confirmation as soon as possible via the Discord server. .1 seconds only remaining, still 21 minutes to go, 21.5 minutes to be precise. And the gap is still coming down, so I would say let's use this opportunity, and now that Flipsy's passing the start-finish straight, let's do one lap of Road Atlanta. We didn't do it. So, approaching now turn 1, you really have to commit yourself to pass here with the maximum possible speed. But try to keep the car as stable as possible. Turn 3, take as much curb as the car allows you to do. Then this first sector, you already see all corners are pretty much blind, so it's just intuitive driving, which you really have to train. It's a track where you should not race if you have not trained for. Then we get to the easiest bit, the two 90 degrees corners. The first one is pretty fast, the next one is a bit slower, and just comes after the first one. Great exit here by Flipsy, by the way, just letting the car rotate, settle itself in, and then it's a huge part of straight line acceleration coming up to the final chicane, where you stay on the right hand side. Now that you see the 4 boards on the right hand side, you brake pretty much approaching the first one, cut as much of this curb as you can. Let the car settle in again, and the next section also is pretty much blind, but not as blind as the first sector, and that was a very good example of one lap around Road Atlanta. We can also do one lap on the hypercar so that you can see the difference between both cars. We even have a bit of traffic on track. You already see that with a hypercar it's a little bit more difficult to really abuse that curb on the apex of turn 3. And there you can see how difficult it is to manage the traffic. You are now closing in, and then you have to decide, do I pass him or... Oh, and it was almost a collision as Flipsy just pulled to the right hand side. I don't think that it will receive a penalty because it was a story which happened within one team, and I think they do not report themselves. But that was a really close call and perfectly managed by Charles. He's gotten himself a penalty for running out of turn 8, I think, which we have seen a few times today by different drivers, so it's not down to him. But you just see how easy it is to miscalculate. There you see Johnny, who just stays on his racing line, and therefore you see how easy it is if GT drivers stay on their racing line to pass them. So 4.7 seconds only remaining. If they are this close together, it could also mean that they are starting in different lobbies, so the best thing that could happen to the DLL cars is that they get as close as it is even, as possible, so that they don't start in the same lobby and can race freely. Which would, at the moment just be my idea of what would be the best possible outcome of this race. The worst one, of course, would if they would both take themselves out, but I certainly hope that this does not happen, but I'm almost 100% sure that both drivers are clever enough to not do so, as they know that the race is long enough, they are both fighting for the same team, and therefore they should know what is best. So, I've just made myself a coffee and it's already getting cold. Yeah, now that I look outside of my window, I realize how unfortunate it is that we do not have rain at Road Atlanta, because it's a track where I think if we had a little bit rain, it would be way more difficult. I'm just trying to imagine the first sector in the rain. Oh, it could be fun, but it must not exactly be fun. It's difficult to see. .4 seconds only now between Flipsy and Johnny. Ice Tiger still 1 minute behind Flipsy, 20 seconds behind him Kuhaku, Joe Cubano in 7th place. The race leader still DLL Charles with a gap of 1 minute and 20 to the next car. In the first lobby we have almost the same picture of the GTE lobby, as the gaps between the cars are pretty spread out. The only exception that we have is the one between both of those cars, Johnny and Flipsy. .9 seconds and only 50 minutes left, so it still remains interesting. So just a quick information for you in case you're interested to stay on this channel. The stream will temporarily end after the end of the stint, and after that Confuser will take over the stream for the second lobby and co-commentate with this fellow dude here, with Charles, who is also part of the race orga. They will both commentate the second stint here during this lobby. Charles will also host the session just for the drivers to have the confirmation. And the first lobby will be streamed by this young man here, by DLL Flipsy, together with GTP Nuschel. And the host of the first lobby will be Hydramix 2, who did also stream the LMH qualifying session 1 week ago. And as mentioned before, the scheduled stint start is 12 o'clock Central European time. If you're living in the east coast of the United States, it means 6 o'clock for you. If you're living a little bit more west, 5 o'clock. For the United Kingdom, Ireland, it means 5 o'clock. And for everyone living possibly in Eastern Europe. It might even mean... Did I say 7 o'clock? 11 o'clock I meant for the UK, sorry for that. And it means 1 o'clock PM for everyone living in the eastern section of Europe. The exact starting times are also posted on Discord if you enter the channel streaming, which is at the race organization, which I don't know if every one of you has access to. But there you find, just in case that you have a document where everything that you need to know is scheduled, every helper is signed up there, the timing schedule, the host lists, the UTC time comparison, just in case that you live in a time zone outside of Germany or Central Europe, because all times that we have for race start are based on the Central European time, and therefore it should make life a little bit more easier for you. And yeah, I hope that I could help you a little bit with that. And yeah, even though that we still have 12 minutes remaining, I wish you the best of fun for the rest of the race, as well as we now focus on the battle that we all have maybe even been waiting for between DLL Flipsy and DLL Johnny, as the gap now has come down to 0.7 seconds between the Porsche 911 in first place in the GTE class and the second place car, which is of the same team, also DLL, but an Aston Martin made in the UK. So let's see how both of them will behave. Hopefully no crash between both of them, but as mentioned before, I'm pretty sure that nothing will happen. But it will be interesting because Ice Tigers is just ahead of both cars, and I hope that he is perfectly aware what is happening behind him, and that both of them are, with their current pace, catching up with the BMW. I'm pretty sure that Flipsy will let by in a couple of seconds by Johnny if he realizes that Flipsy is a little bit faster. But it could also be possible that there are no team orders and that both teams decided to race freely as if they were completely different teams, which of course for us as spectators it would be perfect. But the decision, of course, is not made by us, it's made by the team. And I think that Flipsy has been led by Johnny as we expected. And yeah, that was the battle. Johnny should be keeping up for a few laps. Let's monitor the gaps. But I would not be surprised if Flipsy pulls away. As we've seen before, his pace was a little bit better. Ooh, slight mistake there by Ice Tigers, just getting a bit confused maybe by the blue flags. I hope he now stays clear of track. Now that's of course a little bit of an unlucky path to receive blue flags. He continues normally, which is normal. I think later on after turn 8 he will clear the racing line and let both DLL cars past. So let's keep an eye on that. Blue flags on track. Stay clear of traffic. Ah, no, he's not clearing away. He still remains in the racing line. One more turn going. And now he's letting Flipsy by more or less, but it was not the perfect management of blue flags. Next car behind. Same procedure as just before. Blue flags on track. He should stay clear of the racing line. It's now on the outside for the next turn, so it could work out pretty well. Great job. And Kuako also still remaining 16 seconds behind. And Joe Cubano in last place at the moment with a 1 second penalty. Oh, and he went out on the grass and just avoids a full spin. Now with 30 tires, and he also still has to service penalty. Let's keep a look to the front. Charles in first place, doing a really solid job. Oh, there was a collision for R.A. Filo, who just went on the back of DLL Flipsy. No fault of Flipsy, if I'm not mistaken. I think that he just remained on his racing line. I think it was just a miscalculation by Filo himself, which has caused him more damage on his car. But I think it is too late to enter the pits. I think he will have to stay out, as we only have 7.5 minutes to go. He will be able to carry it home. He will maybe lose 2 seconds or so per lap, but it's still less time lost than if he would enter the pit lane for repairs. A little bit unlucky there, but of course the concentration at a certain point just disappears. That's perfectly normal. And he stays out as we expected. I think that is the perfectly correct decision. Oh, there's damage on Johnny's car as well! What happened there? Was it the same situation? Johnny's entering the pit lane, so he makes the completely opposite decision. That's interesting. He will remain in 4th place overall, because the gap to Ice Tigers is too big as to disappear. No need to refuel for Johnny. And he is not doing so, just repairing damage, but he changed tires. I'm not sure if this was really necessary, as it costs him another 4 to 5 seconds, which he didn't need to. Nevertheless, he now has fresh tires. Maybe he's trying to go for the fastest GT lap, which doesn't earn you any points, but of course it's always nice to see. So now the gap between both cars, which was really small, just went up to 50 seconds, just like that. That's how quick it can happen on this track. So Filo now 1 minute 42 behind Charles. Let's monitor his lap time. It was now 1 minute and 10, but remember, he had a spin during this lap. He will continue staying out until the end of the stint. It's the only sensible thing to do. Flipsy staying out, now with a really solid lead in the GTE class. Great overtake by Filo, by the way, there. As Flipsy ran a little bit wide, but it was, I think, completely independent of the overlapping traffic. Ice Tigers in 3rd place now, gap to Johnny decreased to 32.5 seconds. Kuhako in P6 with 13 to 14 seconds, and the final spot goes to Joe Cubano in 7th place for the team without names, as the abbreviation is spelled in German. Die ohne Namen, those without names. So at the moment the gap between the cars leading this lobby and the car leading lobby 1 increased again a little bit. It's now at around 30 seconds still. I will not spoil you any information according which car is leading and which car is in 2nd place overall. It could be the car that we are seeing right now, but it could also be the car of the other lobby. But this also means, because we have such a huge gap, that the car, independent of the lobby, both leading cars at the moment are occupying the first 2 places, as in the first lobby as well. The 2nd place car in the hypercar class is also 1 lap down on the leader. Even though that the gap just before has been a little bit close, but change of strategy changed the grid order a little bit, and of course the gap went up. So, 3 minutes remaining. Everyone responsible for entering the gaps should please later on focus on exactly that thing. I will try to catch every car crossing the start-finish line so that you have a look on the gaps later on, which is important to enter, and of course also please keep an eye on the laps completed at the end of the first 2-hour stint, because this information is also needed to be entered. Luckily we only have 7 cars at the moment. The unfortunate thing is that the reason for that is that we lost 2 cars due to disconnect. It has now also been confirmed on Discord, but still 8 hours left, everything to play for. So 2 minutes remaining, which also means for me that after the stint I'm immediately going to get prepared to drive my stint. Of course we still have to wait until the gaps are calculated, because we still don't know which lobby we have to enter. And of course the same goes for the remaining drivers of the teams we have in this lobby. So everyone good on fuel, it should perfectly be fine for the... Oh, there's been another incident by Joe Cubano. Here's damage at the front. Did something happen with another hypercar? I don't think so. Let's compare the lap time of Philo now on this lap. He has lost 12 seconds. That's huge. So I think there might have been another incident between him and Joe Cubano, because he has lost way more time than he did on the lap before, where he made a 1:08. There must definitely have been an incident between both of them. Ah, that's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate. But again, 44 seconds the gap. You've seen how this happened only during one stint, and we still have 4 stints to go. We have different drivers driving in the next stint, at least mostly. So still anything can happen. So we are in the last minute and the first cars are passing the start-finish straight. The first one is Johnny. Congratulations for second place. He has a gap of 60 minutes and 46 seconds. Philo with a gap of 2 minutes and 3 seconds. 103 laps completed. Johnny 190 minutes. Next one to cross is Charles with a race lead, 105 laps completed. Joe Cubano with 89 laps completed, 18.11 seconds to P1. Congratulations to the stint victory in GTE class to Flipsy, 16 minutes point 6 with 91 laps completed. Next one to pass, Ice Tigers, 90 laps completed, gap to the leader 17.24 minutes. And last but not least, we have Zero Kuhaku, who will have completed 90 laps as well, with a gap to the leader of 70 minutes and 35 seconds. Congratulations to every single one of you for finishing your race. Here we have the stint victor with the best rear view of a race suit that I might have ever seen, with the salt straw. Just amazing thing. So, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you also will enjoy the rest of the race. I will now prepare for my stint. Let's save the replay just in case that we need it, and see you later on.